One of the far too many victims from Monday's shooting in the Highland Park neighborhood of Chicago was Jackie Sondheim. Just last Shabbat, just a week ago, Jackie greeted worshipers as they entered the sanctuary of our sister Reform congregation, North Shore Congregation Israel, helping everyone to feel welcome and at home. Jackie was a lifelong member and longtime staff person at the shul, and one of her fellow congregants, one of her lifelong friends, said about her, "Every life cycle event, you shared it with Jackie. Whether it was a baby naming or a bat mitzvah or a wedding, we cannot remember a time when we walked into the sanctuary and she wasn't standing at the door with a smile." Jackie will be missed, of course, not just for her presence at the temple, but for the mark that she left on the people in her life, how she made other people and animals feel loved and cared for. One friend said about her, she was the kindest and sweetest person, always welcoming, a caring wife. I can't say enough about her. She loved to rescue dogs. That's just the kind of person who she was. Always a smile on her face, always caring for other things. Jackie Sondheim was a constant, caring presence for so many in her life, and she will be so surely missed. And this week in our Torah portion, Parashat Chukat, the Israelites lost their own source of comfort, Miriam. The Israelites had been wandering in the desert when they reached a place called Zin. And we read there, V'tam'at sham Miriam, v'tivaker sham, v'lo haya mayim le'edah. Miriam died and was buried in this place. And suddenly the people had no water. So Miriam dies. And all of a sudden, without warning, the water that had long sustained the Israelites, ever since they'd left Egypt, it dried up. Why? What did Miriam have to do with the water? A midrash explains that Miriam had this special, almost magical or miraculous well of water that she could bring with her wherever she went. And Miriam lovingly shared that water with the whole Israelite people, keeping them alive in the otherwise dry and arid desert. Some of you here tonight in the sanctuary or watching at home, you may put out an extra cup of water on your Passover table, on your Seder table. This is known as a kos Miriam, or a Miriam's cup. And it's a way of paying homage to the important role of women in our people's history, and of course, the important role of women in our present. And this midrash, the midrash on this week's Torah portion, is the basis of that tradition. But why? Why or how did Miriam get this miraculous well of water in the first place? Rashi teaches that it was because of her caring nature and her kindness that she merited this divine gift. Another medieval commentator, Rabbeinu Bachya, he writes that the gift of water was God's reward to her for one specific act of kindness, saving the life of her baby brother Moses as he lay at the edge of in a basket at the edge of the Nile River. After all, Miriam watched over that basket until she got up the courage to show it to Pharaoh's daughter. And you, speaking of Passover, probably know the rest of that story. But through this loving act, through this gift that she gave to Moses, she herself gained the gift and the power and the water to sustain her entire people. Each one of us has a Miriam or a Jackie Sondheim from Chicago to nourish our lives. Maybe that person is a teacher or a parent or a grandparent or a loving friend or a doctor or a nurse or a therapist. someone who knows just the right thing to say just when we need it most, someone to show us that we are needed and cared for and loved, someone who, in the words of Rabbi Heschel we read just a moment ago, someone who can water our arid souls or mend our broken hearts. One of the biggest failures of the Israelites, according to our medieval rabbi, Rabbeinu Bachya, was that the Israelites had never realized that their water came from Miriam. They didn't notice until she was gone, and suddenly their water dried up. And Miriam, like Aaron, like Moses, like her brothers, she never made it to the promised land. Of course, Jackie Sondheim, too, her life was cut too short. And each one of us shares that curse and that blessing, that we are working to sustain and to nourish a world which will continue to exist long after we are gone. So tonight, let us learn from the mistakes of our ancestors. May we not take for granted the people who nourish, who water our souls. Let us not wait until they are gone to realize how much their care truly means. And in their honor and in their memory, may we follow in their footsteps. May we become wellsprings ourselves, nurturing those we meet with our smiles, with our love. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may it be God's will.